Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sue Greenwell with the Empowered Light Holistic Expo, and I have with me a wonderful speaker and vendor for our April Expo, Nancy Van Alphen. Hi, Nancy. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, Sue. Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Nancy Van Alphen, and I am a member of IANDs. We are the International Association for Near-Death Studies, and I'm also the author of a new book, and I'm a new author, by the way. It is my first book, and it is called Caught Between Heaven and Earth. And my book is about my spiritual journey and how I sort of found IANDs as a kindred community that supported my experiences and a community where I was able to share the things that happened to me and not feel sort of, scrutinized by society so much.
Right.
It was a place where I could go and really feel that they understood what I had been through and what I was talking about.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself, Nancy. Tell me kind of what your background is and what, like how you got involved with IANDS, maybe a little bit about what IANDS is in the first place, and then maybe about how you progressed to writing a book. I mean, that's a long thing in one sentence. But
It is. I have so much going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, I tell you what, Sue, I'll start with IANDS a little bit because that's the main part of our booth there at the Empowered Light Expo. And really what we're doing out there is we're introducing ourselves to folks who don't really know about IANDS. And IANDS is, again, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And we are a group that supports the education, research, and again, community support for people who've had NDEs, but also they have a database of gold for researchers and scientists who are involved in near-death study research to go and use those, toward their metrics and to have contact with individuals who have had near-death experience and so forth and use those in their studies. So IANDS, again, we're a nonprofit that supports all of that kind of research, science, and education. And also we are out there to invite the public to our conference, which you can totally find out a whole lot more about NDEs themselves. Excellent. And talk to some of those speakers that we'll be having out there and hear what they have to say about the near-death experience.
I think there's so many people that have had near-death experiences, so many more than have been reported or collected. I mean, my first memory is a near-death experience, and I know quite a few other people that have had them as well. And one other little crazy tidbit, they didn't die, but my family members have been hit by lightning more than once. And
wow.
It's a little odd, isn't it?
Yeah, and wow. There's a great book out there by one of our speakers this year, Suzanne Giesemann. Suzanne was a Navy commander, really high up Navy commander, whose daughter was struck and killed by lightning. And that has a lot to do with her personal story, but also she wrote a great book called Wolf's Message. And the boy in the story actually was killed, struck by lightning and killed, but yeah. It really rolls into all that she does. But Suzanne Giesemann is one of our keynote speakers this year, and she's going to be really fabulous to hear. She has a lot to do also with contacting children who have died and their parents who may want to get in contact with them, and just gives so much hope for the existence of an afterlife and the existence of our souls and so forth.
When the information first became available, I read every book by Brian L. Weiss, and there was, of course, Danny and Brinkley, and he was hit by lightning either 2 or 3 times. And there was so many books about people basically dying and coming back to come back to help humanity, and they had messages of love, which I am assuming is maybe also in your book. But I started out with all that information. I could not get enough of it. And that was like 20, 25 years ago. And now I feel like, well, everyone knows about it, but they don't. They don't know that a resource like your organization is out there. They don't even know about these experiences for the most part. So I think they're going to be very interested to know more about what you offer, and that you have an event coming up the end of August, beginning of September this year.
Right. You're exactly right, Sue, because even for people who haven't had a near-death experience or a spiritually transformative experience like I've had, it's something we all hold in common, is that sort of fear of death in most cases, but also just a wonderment of what does really happen after we die. And it doesn't matter to which religion you belong to, or even your faith, because even those of faith, we're all human and we still wonder. And the stories that NDEers bring back to us really talks about what they've been through, what they've seen on the other side, who they've met, their experiences. And so it's something that I think everybody can truly appreciate and listen to, and it really can open your eyes and open your heart and start you on your own spiritual journey.
Right. Right. Well, can you tell us a little bit about, your regular life and maybe how you got started with writing the book? What inspired you? Was there an event, or what caused you to write the book? Can you kind of explain that?
Well, it's interesting, Sue, because my story isn't one of being a seeker. So when my spiritual experiences started, they were completely unexpected and out of the blue. I wasn't a seeker. I was living what I call the elusive life of leisure. I had been in a 30-year career in marketing, and I was finally able to take a step back and relax and enjoy life a little bit. So I was living my best life ever when all of a sudden God decided, well, he wasn't content being in the background, because I'd been an agnostic all my life, diehard agnostic. So when these things happened to me, it did start off with myself having a real heavy, heartfelt compassion for someone I didn't even know. It was something that I had come across on my iPad. So I was having this real heartfelt compassion for a young man that was dying. And I started to yell at a God that I didn't really believe in, that I didn't know was there. But I was yelling and shaking my fists and yelling about suffering, and how suffering was so unfair, and what is it about suffering? Why do we have to suffer? When I was answered. And I will not give you
Getting the chills.
You have to read the book for that. And it's because my experience are so rife with details. Normally takes me 2 hours to tell my story, but I was given a straight up answer about suffering. And that's what sparked what I call my series of core spiritual experiences, because there was a time of about 5 months where these things were happening to me, and I did not want to believe that they were of divine origin, even though they were so bizarre, so completely out of the norm, that it was hard to think that they were not. And that's actually the reason that my book is titled Caught Between Heaven and Earth. It's actually there's a very specific reason for that you will read about in the book, and that has to do with a past life that I was told I lived in no uncertain terms. Was told about that. But the broader meaning of caught between heaven and earth is a struggle between my logical, earth-based, materialist self and these sort of heady, hazy, surreal experiences that were happening to me.
Right.
It was about my struggle to believe, until finally one day, and this was when I was like, I would say a 99% believer, all these things that happen now. I was finally coming to terms with everything when what I call the coup, you normally say the coup de grace, I say the coup de grace that happened to me, a final thing sort of knocked me off my feet. And I believe God was just tired of that little, bit of doubt that
I
I
would
had.
say you were kicked off the fence. It's like, boom, time for you to awaken, Nancy.
Yeah,
You have no choice
exactly.
now. And you have no choice. You have to go forward. And once your eyes are open, they can't be closed again.
That's exactly right. So this last thing that kicked me off the fence drove me into, just a whole new realm of working in this area of spirituality and bringing the messages I was given, which are very much the same as NDEers are bringing back from the other side.
Right.
To sort of promote those messages. And they are messages of love. You're exactly right.
Right. It's very exciting because the audience at the Holistic Expo next weekend is going to be perfect for your book and what your message and your talk will be about. It's perfect because that's the type of person that is interested in, other than what we're experiencing as a physical being, other than our material existence. So I'm very excited that you've decided to come.
Oh, thank you. I'm really glad to be there and be talking to people about. My talk is actually entitled "Living in Love," and the reason I titled that is we all can remember. Well, most of us can remember that initial euphoria of being in love, and then you sort of go on through life and it wears off a little bit. But my message, my talk, "Living in Love," actually gives 4 habits of love, LOVE, that people can practice to get back to that state of euphoria, which really, for our true identity, is our real state of being. We really are made to live in this state of euphoria because, after all, we are love. We are part of love, part of that grander picture. And so what I really want to get across to people in my talk is you don't need to have sort of these miraculous experiences. And I call them miraculous because at this point in most people's journey, they seem miraculous. But if you look into the future as to a point where humanity has evolved a little bit, we will probably see those as pretty common, ordinary, everyday type things. But we're not there yet. And most people in their spiritual journey, they're looking for that sort of big moment of spiritual awakening. And that is possible, but you can also get to that point by practicing habits of love. And that's, again, what my talk is sort of based on. And those 4 habits of love, I will sort of spell them out to you. I won't give you the exact way to go about practicing those, but what we'll be talking about in the conference is the L, which is look for God within everyone, because God does exist within everyone. And whether you see God as, the source, the one mind, the higher self, everybody has their own idea of God. But what I can tell you is God is all encompassing. So the first point, L, look for the God within. The O stands for optimize your suffering, because we all undergo suffering. But what people don't really understand is our suffering is a gift. It's a challenge to teach you how to live in love. So your suffering actually offers opportunities for you to grow in love, to promote love within yourself and within others. And I'll give very specific examples of how people do that. The V stands for value your gifts of the spirit. And very much like I did not value those gifts in the beginning of my experiences, I wanted to brush those away and say, no, those were just coincidences. Those were just really weird things that happened. The more you learn to value those gifts of telepathy, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all those things that sometimes we think are kind of woo-woo things, they are not. And I learned that in a very personal way. So don't brush them aside. The more you accept them, the more open you become to them. So that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about valuing your gifts of the spirit. And then the E simply stands for engage God. And that's different than engaging God with service and recognition of God within others. It is engaging the source, the very primal being, primal source, energy, love, if you will, that infiltrates all of existence. Because when you engage God in deep prayer and meditation, you are able to find direction for your life, the direction that you were intended to go, and get back to your true identity.
Nancy, will you be giving like, we'll call them like case studies in your talk? Will you give a few examples to people in that talk where they can understand what you mean by living this every day so they can integrate that into their normal everyday life?
Yes, absolutely. I will be giving examples of how others have done that, and that's called from normal everyday life, people who haven't had near-death experiences, but also people who have come back. And it's not always easy when you have a spiritually transformative or near-death experience. We're still human, so it's not always easy to live the lessons that we're given. But habit is a big part of it, how to make things habitual in your life. And yes, I will be definitely giving examples for people to, listen to, latch onto, and sort of incorporate into their own lives.
I think if people do make them habitual, like they do whatever they're doing, and it becomes a way or a pattern, a thought or a thing that they do, after a while they'll just do it automatically and it will spread out into their everyday life. They'll show other people and it will ripple forward, which is really what you're after.
That's right, definitely. And it's funny because it's almost like I talked about, living in love. You get ultimately to that euphoric feeling where life, if you practice these habits, there will come a point where life, if you can look back, you'll see how it's changed, how your perspective on life has changed. So in my own personal experience, and this didn't just happen from those major miraculous type things that happened to me, I had to actually practice these habits of love as well. And there comes a point where you look around at life and you see beauty in everything. So of course you're gonna, it's easy to see it in the birds and the trees and nature, but you also begin to see it in the suffering of people, which is a really weird thing to say. But when you can look at suffering from a different perspective and know that it's a gift, and know what opportunities lie in that, you look at life differently, and there comes a sense of euphoria in your life where you can feel yourself getting back to your true nature.
Well, I know sometimes other people's suffering causes people to step up to become the best version of themselves, to provide assistance, to provide comfort, or to have epiphanies, even realizations about how they can help. So that does help others. And it's hard for us to understand that suffering makes people grow stronger and grow closer together. I actually prefer that people don't suffer, but there is sometimes great value in it.
Yeah, a lot of us have taken to praying, not that people don't suffer, but that their pain is as little as it can be for them to learn what they need to learn. And one of the things I learned from many near-death experiencers is that some people come into this life for the express purpose of suffering, to give others the opportunity to learn different aspects of love, such as compassion and caring and those sorts of things. So it really is. I can sit here and I'm still very amazed to have learned these things, because life before this was, when I was railing at God about suffering, I just thought it was the most horrible thing ever. But now I know there's a purpose for it. And that's a message that myself and all NDEers are sharing with the world.
Excellent. It's very exciting. It sounds like you've made an about face in your life, and I would assume that you're much happier now than you were a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. And Sue, I didn't think I could be happier. That's the crazy thing. Most people, you hear of a lot of stories of people are sort of hit rock bottom when they find their spiritual path. And yes, that does happen often. But I'm living proof that it happens to people who are just living a normal life. And like I said, I was living probably my happiest life ever. I didn't think I could be happier. And then this happened, and I did have to go down a little bit more before I came back up to understand it. And you'll see that journey in my book, how I had to dip down and figure out what this was all about. and I was given divine confirmation that yes, I was correct in what I was learning.
That's so
So
exciting.
it wasn't just a guess anymore. I was like, okay, I understand. And that's when I came to this, this whole new perspective on life.
I'm so glad to have met you. It sounds like you've made an about face and you'll be helping so many. And I'm just glad that you got that wake up call. And now you have many years to help yourself and others. It's very exciting.
It is definitely. And I'm really excited about this conference coming up because I consider myself a baby in the field, knowing all the stuff that's going up there. So many people have been involved in this for so many more years than I have, and have learned so much more. And what I find especially exciting, my personal, interest, is the bringing together, the bridging of the gap between science and spirituality. So the conference that we have coming up isn't just about, NDEers telling what happened to them, which is amazing in itself, the stories you hear at these conferences, but you hear from really highly credible scientists, medical professionals, and researchers who are actually applying science to spirituality. And in the areas of quantum physics, and there was another area I wanted to mention, I forget right now. Oh, consciousness studies. Those are two really big areas of science that these researchers are bringing to the forefront and saying, we don't have answers for these things except from the perspective of spirituality. So let's see how the puzzle fits together. And I'm particularly excited about one gentleman that we have. He is going to be a plenary speaker, a featured speaker for us this year. He has been a keynote in the past, but Dr. Eben Alexander is wonderful because he was very much like me. He was materialist, scientist, like somewhat agnostic, although he had some religion growing up. But he's a neurologist, a brain science, neuroscientist, who didn't really believe in the near-death experience until it happened to him. And he is really on the forefront of, bringing medical professionals together with the scientific community and saying, let's take another look at this because we don't really have answers for consciousness.
Right.
But I believe spirituality, talk about the one mind, the one consciousness, which comes back to my message that I was given, that we are all one, ultimately and truly. That all rings of the same message.
I think we sometimes can intellectualize what we are all one means. It takes a while to get that in your head, but it's when you truly have that experience, like once you get that experience, you actually want that back again. It's so profound, and you understand it, and you want more of that. And so I think that's what we're doing. We're providing that bridge between the materialistic world and the more spiritual world. There's lots and lots of studies out there that have been done, and that information is not readily available. We're taught only the scientific information that we're allowed to have. Let's put it that way. We're not taught that there's any credence to the spiritual information out there. In fact, we're taught to discourage that and ostracize those that have had these experiences. And we put down astrologers, we put down all of those psychics and things, when in fact they are more in tune than anyone. So it's very exciting that more and more people are awakening.
Yeah, I believe that too. And it's funny you say that, Sue, because I would have been one of those persons.
Yeah.
Truly would have. I mean, I was so based in the logical. I came from, my major in college was anthropology with a heavy focus on the study of early man. And we were all proponents of evolution, and that was the only, reason of being. But I even had an inkling back then, somewhere in the back of my mind, that it was materialistic science.
Yes.
So, and that's probably why I was more agnostic and not totally atheistic. Even at that point. But I had decided that there was no way you could know anything beyond the physical, so it wasn't even worth thinking about. And
Right.
people who thought about it were just phony baloney
Right.
until it
But
happens to you.
we're taught at an early age to discredit anyone that has anything outside the box that we're taught.
That's right. That's
Right.
exactly right. Yeah. And the thing that excites me about science too, getting involved, and there are more and more credible scientists, getting involved in this because they have not been able really to solve what is called the hard problem of consciousness. And consciousness just being another word for, soul or spirit, something that exists outside the body, a thinking sentient something, which we call consciousness or God or love or whatever name people choose to give it. So science has never solved that problem. They don't know where consciousness comes from, as much as people will tell you that, oh, the brain creates consciousness, creates soul, creates, God, and all of these things that we cannot see, but they have not proven that at all. And the other aspect of that is memory. So you're probably familiar with something called the Akashic Records, where past life records, which is just memory, are stored. Science really does not know where long-term memory is stored in the brain, and that's something most people don't really realize. But again, in sort of my journey and trying to fit all the different pieces of the puzzle together, I've come across these pieces of information that just totally amaze me. And I'm like, they don't know where memory lives. They don't know what consciousness is. I mean, those are things that some people assume we know, but we do not.
I think you're going to really love networking with several of the other speakers at the expo because they specialize and they have information on several of the topics that you've hit on. But what I've had several discussions recently with family members about consciousness, and it surprises other people that, like plants, trees, rocks have their own consciousness. And
absolutely,
they're not inanimate objects sitting there or plant growing there. They actually have Akashic records and they have access to our records as well. And so that's why we are all one. It's a big web of consciousness, but we're not aware of it. So of course we discount it. But I think you'll get a lot of great information at the expo, just talking with select speakers about their specialty topic, if you will. So I'm pretty excited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Whenever I network with people who have been at this much longer than me, I'm just always bowled over at the information that I discover. And, you want to come at it from different angles, of course, because as thinking logical human beings, we also were given brains for a reason. And I'm a person who tends to want to investigate things and see, well, is that true? Is it not true? Because we're all on our own individual paths and we approach things in our individual ways. But more and more, I'm finding out things that I would have dismissed outright prior to my experiences. I really look and investigate those and find out, wow, yeah, this is really something that is proving to be true, and more people are having this experience, and science is starting to prove this, and all those kind of things. So it's a whole new wondrous universe and reality for me.
It's very exciting, very exciting.
Yeah,
so,
it definitely is.
I wanted to point out that your talk is Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. in the Glow Room, which is in the hallway. People that have been to the Expo Center know where I'm talking about. But her talk is not in the printed program. It is on the website at 4 p.m. It's Messages of Love with Nancy Van Alphen, and she'll be talking about how to integrate those basic messages of love into your everyday life so you can affect your own life in a positive way, but really other people, and that trickles out to all it is, which is really so exciting. And then Nancy will be running the booth for IANDs. I don't actually recall your booth number, Nancy, and I guess it doesn't matter. We'll have to go look for her. But she'll also have her book there, and I'm sure she'd be glad to sign the book for you and explain some things in the book that could help you and answer questions. One other thing that Nancy will be doing is promoting promoting the IANDs conference, which is coming up August 29th through September 1st. And I think that's in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania this year. Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah, it's at the Crown Plaza in King of Prussia. It's August 29th through September 1st. That is Labor Day weekend, but I think that gives folks something really great to do, and it's uplifting, great for your mind, great for your spirit. So we're inviting everyone to come out. You come on over to our booth at the Empowered Light Expo, and we'll tell you how to go through early bird registration. We've got a good discount there for people. We'll tell you a little bit more about our fabulous speakers, tell you a little bit more about IANDs and the memberships that you can get. Very inexpensive membership, and you get so much out of it.
Right.
So we'll be talking about a lot of things, answering all your questions, and we hope to see everybody at the booth.
Excellent. Well, your conference will be for those that really want to dig deeper, and so there'll be some great keynote speakers and all of that. And it sounds like a great event that she's putting together. So if you can support that, that would be great. And you'll be getting further information at our expo, or it's online as well at the website. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? There's a lot going on for you, Nancy.
Oh gosh, there is so much going on. The conference will be the launch of my book, so I'm hoping folks will come by and talk to me a little bit. The conference, it's typically held on the West Coast, so it's not very often that this conference is over on the East Coast. So we're hoping that people who are even a little bit interested, they will come out. It won't cost them airfare, just, we'll just have the conference expenditure. But the conference also has a healing room. We'll have a bookstore. We'll have some exhibitors out there. There is a general track and a health education slash research science tracks that everybody is invited to attend either of those tracks. There are workshops and special sessions for veterans and CE credits for nurses. So that's a really cool one. I think sometimes nurses go get their CE credits and a lot of very cut and dry stuff, but this is really super exciting. So if you're a nurse, especially, come on out and join us. And we'll have Spanish speaking sessions. We're trying to get a little more diversity at our conferences. So we invite particularly people of Hispanic, African American, Asian backgrounds to please come and get involved with us, because this is a Unitarian type thing, not Unitarian with Unitarian Church, but we're all one, and we want to involve as many people as we can in this. So I think that about sums it up. You can find out a little bit more at IANDS.org.
So thank you, Nancy. So for those that want to come and support Nancy Van Alphen, she'll be speaking at 4 o'clock Saturday, April 27th at the upcoming Empowered Light Holistic Expo in the Glow Room. It is not in the program, so please mark it down. There will be a room poster outside the door to remind people, but unfortunately, we printed the programs a little early this time and missed some of the speakers. And then Nancy will be there at her booth, of course, promoting her talk and her book and the IANDS conference. So there'll be quite a bit going on at that particular booth.
Yes, and if I'm not there, there will be some other representatives, because I'm actually super jazzed about some of the speakers at the Empowered Light Expo, and I want to make sure I get to a few of those myself.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest regrets is I can't do all of the talks. I'm running around answering questions most of the time, but there's several great speakers, and I think you're really going to like to, number one, to meet them, Nancy, but if you can see the talks, some of them will be video taped, and then we'll be putting that out on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the videos after the fact, but it's going to be a great event. I'm very, very excited. I say this every time. It's going to be the best expo ever, or yet, and I really believe that. I feel like we've got an incredible mix of talks and speakers and vendors as well this time.
It looks really fascinating. I cannot wait to get down there.
Excellent. Excellent.
Definitely got me excited and really interested for the talks and to meet everyone out there. So, and you've done a fabulous job, Sue,
Wow.
putting it together. So it probably will be the best one yet. From what I've heard, they get better and better every year. So
They do get better and better, and I'm getting more
yeah.
organized. And for those that don't know, I do this on my own 24/7 pretty much. It's always about the expo whenever I talk to people. But I
The
love
labor of love. Yeah.
yes, I love what I do, and there's a bigger reason to it than I even know, but I am just going with it, and I love it. So fun.
Yeah,
So
and I think all of us who are involved in these types of expos and conferences and so forth, it really is a labor of love, and we're driven
yes,
by a higher power
yeah,
as we sort of contribute to what I feel and many others feel is a spiritual evolution that's going on within humanity.
right. It's like planning a wedding or a really big party, and you want to make sure everyone comes, everyone's happy and they're comfortable. But there is a much bigger purpose here. It really is about getting the latest information out to people that are awakening and providing a support structure because we need human connection, not just
Yeah.
social media. We need to talk with people that have had like experiences or that have connections to assist us with our next step. And that's really what it's about. And I'm very excited because some of the feedback I've gotten has been mind blowing. I had a vendor last time that emailed me and she said, because of a contact I met at the last expo, it was her first one ever, I have written and published a book, and it's now out on Amazon and it's selling well. And she said, I met another person at your expo the last time that's helping me with marketing and promotion. And she said, if I hadn't been there, none of this would have happened. Wow. That's
That
really
is,
big.
yeah.
And I've had people, like the most beautiful emails and messages from people. And that really keeps me going. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, working a regular job would be easier, but I do love it. And I do believe there's a much bigger reason that I can even remotely understand. So I'm going with it. I love it.
Well, God bless you, Sue. I
Yeah.
think that's terrific. And thank you for all your work and putting it all together. Because
No
if
worries.
there were people like you doing this, it would be a real loss for
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, and it's an interesting story because when I planned this, like I had this intuitive hit that I must do it, and I'm like, oh hell no. And I didn't even go to expos. Honestly, I couldn't go in. I couldn't walk into the energy of these places. It was like normally not positive energy. You got a lot of people selling you stuff, and they're not all of the light, if you will. And I can't even go to expos. So I do a lot of work I do screen the vendors. I do a lot of work on the expo center and the people that are there. And, I'm one person. Things get through. I'm doing the best I can, but the vibe of the expo itself is pretty high. And it's
Yeah.
only going to get better as time goes on. So that's pretty exciting.
I think it's important you mention that because it really speaks to the caliber of the conference that you put on and the quality of the vendors and so forth that you have there.
Right.
And really truly is a labor of love for everyone involved.
Yeah, that is true. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nancy. It was so great talking with you. I hope this video has helped other people understand what you're doing and what you'll be doing at your booth and at your talk. And of course, ask you about your book and also come to your conference. So it's going to be great.
Thank you so much, Sue. We're really happy to be participating.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon, Nancy.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
See you at the Empowered Light Expo.
Yay!